Today, I want to talk about raising up leaders and how important that is for any organization to do. To have a pipeline of leaders that are flowing through your organization and the ability for them to grow and develop is so crucial. People are organization's biggest asset. And so, as leaders, we need to pay attention to that and ensuring we have an influx of those leaders involved in our organizations. And with a lot of organizations, this can be a struggle. There can be a lot of turnover in organizations. And with that turnover, then you need a pipeline that's constantly having the ability for people to flow up and through. And through this short talk, I want to talk about ways that we can do that effectively. The first thing to think about as an organization is, who do you need in your organization to be a leader? What are you looking for? Developing a culture fit so you understand what kind of leader do we need right now? What is our organization trying to do? What is the journey that's in front of us? And how will that determine the type of people that we want within our organization? Another thing to think about is skills. Do you need someone who's a gifted communicator? Do you need someone that's organized? Do you need someone who's an visionary, who's creative, who's innovative? Come up with a list of 4 to 5 real skill sets that you believe the next level of leaders that are coming to your organization need are really critical. And then you also have to think about people skills. What type of people skills do you want these leaders to have? Obviously, people skills is a huge part in any organization, but that can evolve and change depending on the roles that you have. And lastly, I want you to think about diversity within your organization. This is critical. Who's not at the leadership table? How can you ensure that you have diversity in your organization? That's going to allow your organization to be a lot more successful, a lot more ability to reach out to individuals than that. So think about gender diversity, think about cultural diversity, think about age diversity. Those are all important factors as you're trying to get a leadership team together. So the first step to do this is to create a hit list. So you need, as a leadership team, to begin to brainstorm a list of student leaders that you would want as part of your organization. And this is kind of a green light brainstorm. You want to get 10, 20, 30 names up on the list. And these should be people from within your organization and maybe people from without your organization. And this is going to be a list that's really going to help you define what that is. A little bit about leaders from within or without. A lot of research will point to that it's way more effective to groom people throughout your organization and have them come up through the organization. And I think that's an ideal scenario. But in a lot of cases, that's not always possible. And so are there some social circles that you know of other people that would do an amazing opportunity in your organization, and can you pull them in? The next step is to narrow down that list. Obviously, you don't have the time or the resources to contact 30 people. And so can you, as a leadership team, whittle that down to maybe 10? What would, of the list of 30, what would be these would be the 10 ideal leaders that we'd want to have as a part of our organization. And then the last step is to think of a critical plan of how you're going to reach out to those 10. Are we going to send emails? Is it going to be text? Is it going to be going out for coffees? That's an important part to understand. How are you going to reach out to this now smaller group? This idea of building connections with these 10, I think, are really crucial. Most people do not want to commit to an organization where they don't really know the people that they want to work for or potentially, take the positions of. And so how can you create space in your schedule so that you can build connections with these 10 people? It's going to take an investment of time. It's going to take actually a relationship that you begin to form with these individuals in order for that to hopefully have them come on board and get involved. And so don't underestimate the amount of time and effort for this stage. If you're really trying to recruit strong student leaders, your goal is to really get to know them get to know you in order for them to be able to hopefully make that decision to get involved in a more deeper level in your organization. The other important thing is to create on-ramps. I think too often we ask people to get involved in our organization, and it's a long-term commitment. We're asking them to come for, a year or multi-years, and they don't really know much about our organization or haven't really maybe been involved again. So I think ensuring that we're, at least for the first ask, can you ask them to commit for even a month? Like, is there something even this semester that they could be a part of your organization for a month just to kind of give it a test drive? I think that's another way to frame it, is can you create some test drives for these individuals to get involved with your org to see if there's a good fit for you, or if you're a good fit for them. And then it's important to give them tasks that are important, to delegate real leadership roles for them to give away. So in some ways, it's how can we give away our leadership to these new potential leaders so we can see them and how well they can execute in those settings, but for them to do important work. And I think the last part is how can they experience the team that's such an important part of any organization. How do they connect to other leaders on the team? Can they get involved in that? Can they be known and to know others? If you can get them hooked and have a really positive team experience, most likely they're going to stay involved and engaged in your organization. And last but not least, I think this list of 5 things is really an interesting perspective when we think about people stepping up into leadership in our role. And so these 5 steps are relatively easy. I do, they watch, and then we talk about it. And so this is a way we model kind of what we're hoping them to do. And then the next step as they move into your organization is I do, they help me do it, and then we talk some more about how it went, what were their impressions. The next phase gets a little bit more engaged. They're the ones that begin to do the work. I help them out and assist them, and then we're able to process that together. And then the 4th phase is they do, I stand back even more and give them the autonomy to get involved, and we continue to talk. And then eventually they're doing, and someone else is in that model of watching them, and it becomes a circle. And then I can transition out of my organization or get involved in something else, depending on what that is. Hopefully this has been helpful information as you think about developing key leaders in your organization. And this is something you want to start now. Too many organizations push this off and push this off. This is something you need to start this week in order to ensure you have great leaders for next year. Have a great week.